Cool. All right, are we ready?
Sounds good.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Yvelle, your host, and you are Tanya.
All right, let's start again. Okay, because
Okay. Hello and welcome to the podcast. She makes art for the money. I'm your host, Yvelle.
and I am your host, Tanya. We're so excited to have Marina on the mic today. Welcome, Marina.
That's right. Welcome, Marina. I'm absolutely thrilled to have Marina Hamm on the podcast.
First, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be so much fun.
She is a true maven of action sports world. If you've ever dreamed of working in the industry, chances she's already had your dream job. That bikini you loved, she designed it. That perfect surf shop vibe that you felt the second you walked in, she created it. Marina has worked with all the coolest brands in action sports, and trust me, they were lucky to have her. I know her as a quick-witted, no-holds-barred designer who always said what the rest of us were thinking. But her resume, it says every brand she touched got better. Marina, thank you for being on the podcast. And I've been telling Tanya all about you and all our crazy antics that we survived when we worked together at Billabong many years ago. And that was like your first gig, right, in the industry?
Yes, Billabong was my very first job. It was actually my internship. So while I was at FITM in LA, Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, I got an internship with Billabong.
That's so cool. How did you get an internship with Billabong? Did you just apply online or did you know someone or teacher?
I love telling this story for two reasons. So number one, I'm born and raised in Huntington Beach, California. I'm an Orange County girl. So moving to LA to go to FITM was a pretty quick move, but still needed to find a job. Couldn't, bring my job with me. So I actually got a job at the Billabong store at Universal City Walk. And when I interviewed for the job, they said, "Why do you want to work here?" And I said, "I don't." I said, "I don't want to work here." um, I said, "I don't really like retail, but I love the brand and I would love to work at corporate." And they gave me the job, which was very kind of them.
oh, yeah,
Um,
interesting.
First day, the manager, Jerry LeBlanc, came to me and said, "I heard that you want an internship." And in 6 months, Jerry came up to me. He handed me a piece of paper. It had the name Steve Wilson on it and a
Yes.
phone number. And he said, "Call this man next week. You have an internship."
Oh my God,
So
that's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Marina,
always tell
that's an amazing example of how you really knew what you wanted and you put it out there in the world and it really paid off. That's a really great story.
And then the second part of that story I love is that because I did not get my internship through FITM, they A, did not give me credit for it, and B, they continuously tried to get me to quit my internship. My whole point is to work in this industry, and I refused to give up this internship, and so I didn't.
How long were you an intern?
I think I was an intern for a year.
Mhm.
I was an unpaid intern for most of it. But back in the days, it was the Wild West, so there, nobody really cared. I came in and I did what they told me to do. My first day as an intern, I had to sweep the warehouse. Um,
Oh, no. I
yep,
didn't know that.
it was very unglamorous at the beginning, but also I ended up actually doing all the women's Billabong catalogs as the intern, and I used to joke that I was taking the catalogs home on my personal computer, and that if I didn't come back the next day, they wouldn't have had their catalog.
We just trusted you from day one. I remember when you started because we were so excited to have an intern. It was a room full of wild girls. Like, I don't know how we didn't get fired. And we couldn't have a wallflower, couldn't have a quiet, shy girl.
So, Yvelle, were you a designer at the time that
Uh,
Marina was
yeah,
interning?
I was the designer there and yeah, and you were helping the merchandising team, but we were all in one room and we were like pirates. So it was a great time. Then and you were there for a while and you got into helping the swimwear designer and becoming like like the right-hand person for our swimwear designer. And that really was your niche for a while.
It was
Okay.
very much on the job training. And like you said, during my internship, I was willing to do anything. The beginning of my internship was under product developers. So I learned a lot from them. Billabong created a job for me, which was the assistant swimwear designer. And so that was how I learned about swimwear. I'd always loved swimwear. I'd always been a water baby. I learned that at Billabong and just, I think, showed that I was willing to do what was asked of me and, was bright and capable and eager. After I left Billabong, I went to a company called CNC, and they were a license holder. So they had the license for multiple companies. One of those companies was Rusty, which is a surf brand. And how I got that job was interesting, but has kind of been how I've gotten a job at every single other job I've had.
Okay. Yeah.
Wa-
The
Was
gateway drug.
it was a gift? Yes, yes, it was. So I went in for an interview with the two owners, and, I can't remember what I was interviewing for, I'll be honest with you. I don't remember the job that I went for. But after sitting and talking with the owners for about an hour and a half, and they asked me, would you come in and kind of run the department?
Wow.
And, me being young and full of myself, I said, "Yes, absolutely, I can do that."
Sure, run a department? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was an intern designing bikinis, but I will be your boss.
Why they gave me that job, I'll never understand. I have 0 knowledge of why. Just because I understood how a calendar worked and how a
Right.
department should run,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean you should have me running it.
That was the
Um,
surf industry. I mean, we had teenagers working,
Oh my
designing,
god.
making decisions. We literally had a teenager.
If they're really good.
You remember that teenager, Tanya, because I had to travel with him to New York, and you scared the heck out of him.
I
I don't
don't
know if you remember.
remember him at all.
He was one of the men's designer. He was, like, 19, and he went with me to New York to go shopping, and we were at a bar, and you came to meet us. He's like, this is before pot was legal. He's like, "I wanna go get some weed." And you're like, "You can't go because you're gonna go to the park. They're gonna put a paper bag over your head and go, doobie doobie doo."
I don't I don't remember that at
Remember
all.
his face because I he was like the most Orange County boy in the world. You met what was his name, Marina? He was like the prettiest little teenage boy, and he was like and I was like babysitting him on this trip, and he was our
Yeah.
men's
Oh, well,
designer.
yeah, in New York, if it was in New York and he was super pretty, I might have been worried for him for sure.
Yeah, but just the fact you said doobie doobie doo.
Forgot about that story. Gosh, that story makes me laugh.
Right. He was a baby, and I had to watch him. Why me? I was only like 24.
It's funny how much older you feel when you're just in your 20s and just a few years older than, like, someone that's just a couple years old. It's amazing.
He got the job, and I think he did pretty good, but it was just kind of like to your point, Marina, like the surf industry was just hiring anyone who sounded okay. So they saw that spark, but I don't know if that exists anymore. But I mean, with you, it was really clear because I mean, I remember meeting you. You can vocalize. You sounded like you were like head and tails above everybody when you spoke. As even as an intern. So
I've
you did
clearly
it.
clearly the owners of CNC felt the same way
Yeah.
because they
They're like,
gave me a
"Run our company."
and
Yeah.
I didn't. Let's just say that I didn't do a great job, and so I wasn't there for very long. There was a woman there that was there for very long who was perfectly capable of doing the job. I went away on, bereavement leave. When I came back, they had given that job to the woman that should have had the job, um, and then I designed swim for them for a while, which was
Okay.
perfect. It was
Yeah.
exactly what I should have been doing, from the beginning, but it just cracks me up that I went into a room with 2 owners of, you know, multiple licenses, and they said, "Yes, please do this." And I was like, "Alright, cool."
"I need a job, you need this, we're gonna work together, it's all good."
Yeah, it was great. It was a lesson to be learned by all.
Can you talk about, what was the weirdest or most random inspiration that you've ever used for a collection as we start to think about your design experiences?
Um, I have very random inspiration in general. I have always loved movies. Movies have always been a huge thing for me. There is a movie called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's not an old one, but it is a remake, but it's still set in the 60s, and the costumes are incredible. I've always loved costume design.
Is this Henry Cavill?
Mhm.
I know this movie.
Yes.
She knows it well.
And so I designed a swimsuit for Volcom that was very much inspired by a dress that the villain wears in this movie.
Oh, okay.
And it's color blocked, it's black and white, it's high neck, very 60s. And it was definitely something that was very forward, not very surf industry. And the reason that I share that specific story is because that collection, this black and white color block group, actually got into Free People. It was the first time that I believe a surf brand had been sold at Free People. It's definitely the most public random inspiration where I think nobody really knew that this swimsuit was inspired by the Man from U.N.C.L.E.
That's so random. And so you were at Volcom for quite a while, and that's Volcom's a really cool brand because it is action sports surfy, but kind of like its own little fashion niche as well. And so did you feel like you had a little more freedom there to design outside of the genre?
I definitely felt a lot more freedom, a lot more flexibility, a lot more artistic license at Volcom, especially at the beginning. Yeah, so Volcom's slogan is youth against establishment. And so they consider themselves very punk rock, very outside of the box. So when I started designing swimwear for them, I very much felt like I did not have to stay in the same kind of surfy floral world that I had been in before. I could really branch out. We did prints that were photographs from, some of the punk rock shows that they had sponsored. And so they were scanned images made into a collage print. It was very, very cool, very artistic. I will say, though, however, not being the leader in the industry, not being, the most profitable brand, they definitely, after a few years, started to steer more traditional to try to gain more of those open to buy dollars that, the Billabongs and the Quicksilvers were getting.
Yeah. But you had a good run for a while.
You know what? I loved it. I loved it at Volcom. Volcom was amazing. And also, it was really easy for me when they said, we kind of want to be a little more traditional surfy. And I was like, hey, I was trained at Billabong. Like, I got you.
Yeah. You know what to do with hibiscus flower.
It's good that you mention the kind of financial side of things because she makes art for the money, and making money for a company is often a really big part of the deal, right?
Yes.
And so when you think about some of the best projects or the most lucrative, I should say, not best because they aren't always the same thing. Is there anything that you think about that you're really proud of that was really successful, um, that you'd like to talk?
When I was at Volcom, I was not just the swimwear designer. I was a director of swimwear. I didn't direct people. I directed myself to be the designer, the product developer, and the merchandiser. So I was not only responsible for the creative deliverables at the job, I was also responsible for creating the costing and hitting the margins and hitting the SKU profitability. So it was very much my job to not only make something beautiful, but to make sure that it would sell and to make sure that it would make the company money. So that being said, at Volcom, there was quite a lot of stretching and growing as the industry shifted, as they were looking to be a bit more traditional, a bit more bohemian, a bit more floral. Um, and one of the things that I introduced was a tiered fabric system. So at most of the swimwear brands, they were printing on one fabric. You had one price point and you were just getting different prints and different colors and different cuts. But at Volcom, I introduced 3 different fabric tiers and each one had a different price point. And what that did is it really allowed us to expand our market into different customers and expand our reach. And what was interesting was that our highest price point did incredibly well. Many people were very, very nervous about it. I had sourced this recycled material from Italy, we were doing direct digital printing to make it more sustainable, but therefore it made it even more expensive. And a lot of the executives were very nervous about it, but it ended up being incredibly successful for us. So I'm very proud of that because it was sustainable and successful.
It's
That
really cool.
sustainability drove some profits? That's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was probably the beginning of where the market wanted to go, where people are starting to feel the pinch of like fast fashion and the guilt and you still want something that looks good and is stylish, but you don't want to be the devil. Huh.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I think just making sure that the quality was there, because my experience, sustainability for sustainability's sake does not resonate. I think if you're giving the customer a beautiful quality product and you tell them, this product is going to last, because I think that's the thing with fast fashion is people see the quick price point, but they don't understand that they're going to be spending that money over and over and over again because that product isn't going to last. So if you spend a little more money on something that's going to last you 3 times as long, that's actually more affordable as well as better for the environment because you're not throwing something away every 3 months.
I love that. I love that. I mean, there's so many things going on in the industry from a sustainability perspective. And when I read your bio and learned more about you that you've been on the forefront of, can you talk a little bit more around the body positivity angle that you've been really forward in?
Yes, I would love to talk about that. So, something that I did at Volcom that I'm really proud of, that was very, very unique is I started traveling with the sales reps and going to their local surf shops, and Volcom would sponsor an evening. So, we would provide all the local shop kids, we'd provide them with dinner and then an activity. And then I would give a talk. And what the talk originally was meant to be was about about the collection and how to help them sell the collection. What I turned it into, unbeknownst to anybody, and thank goodness it turned out really well because I kept doing it. But what I turned that talk into was a two-parter. I talked about sustainability and why our collection was sustainable, why it was important. But then the second part of my speech was about body positivity. And I would share with these shop kids how important it was that you are not selling a bathing suit to flatter somebody or to make somebody, look a certain way, that you are selling joy. That a swimsuit is not worn to the dentist, it's not worn to a funeral, that literally you are wearing a swimsuit in the happiest, most joyful, fun time of your life. And that was what we wanted. And so I coined the phrase, every body is a bikini body. And I was sharing that message through Volcom to all these shop kids. And here's where it gets weird. And God bless everybody that supported me because that part of the talk I actually did in a bathing suit.
Oh my God. What?
Yes. Yes.
You're in a bathing suit in a room full of young shop people
Correct.
all out there.
Yes. Correct. I was definitely 15 years older, at least, than any of the kids in the room. Luckily my humor, plays. It didn't come across as serious,
Mm,
obviously.
right.
So what I would do is I would stop, I would end my sustainability portion and I would tell the kids to cover their eyes and picture the perfect bikini body. And as they were doing that, I would take off what I had and I had my bathing suit on underneath it. And then I would tell them, okay, open your eyes. And I would be like, ta-da! Um,
Oh my God.
and
I
and
mean,
then
if I was wearing a Von Dutch hat, I would tip my Von Dutch hat to you right now because that is amazing. And this is going to make for an amazing mini clip for the beginning of this episode. So thank you.
You are welcome. So it was magnificent. The reps loved it. The kids loved it. I was truly just trying to get across the message that please don't take yourself seriously. Please sell these swimsuits. Please wear these swimsuits. One of the things I would say all the time is, go to the beach, get yourself some nachos, put the nachos on your belly, and live your best life. Stop caring about what other people think about you and just enjoy yourself. And I think they got that. They could tell that I didn't care I didn't care about being judged. I cared about sending the message. And everybody just ate it up. I remember one of the trips was in the Southeast and it was on a riverboat. We did like a riverboat cruise as the event, and they had a little platform. And I literally laid in my bathing suit on my side, spread out, doing this talk. And I don't know. I think because I laugh at myself and enjoy myself, I think that other people can feel that.
Mhm.
But that I was really, really proud of. And then it led me to build the courage and the research to actually pitch doing plus sized to the executives at Volcom. So obviously the body positivity movement was very big deal. It was freeing for so many people. And I loved seeing on social media all these new body positive influencers. And so it led me to research the market and the white space for if the surf industry would get into this market, because one of the things the influencers was saying was there were very few people creating clothing for the plus sizes. It was you could either go matronly, you could go older where they had those sizes available, or you could go into fast fashion, because obviously fast fashion got on that trend very, very quickly, as they should have. But what the customer needed and wanted was quality, sustainable product. And so I created a pitch deck and a presentation for the executives of, what the available market was and the profit that could have increased for Volcom. And they agreed. And so Volcom became the very first surf brand to do plus sizes for women.
And I remember walking into actually in Santa Cruz here, a surf shop, and seeing your fit model. And I explained to your fit model, she was African American, plus size, gorgeous, like, curves upon curves everywhere in a bikini, huge poster amongst all the flip flops and surf brands. It's like this was never done when I was working in a surf brand in the 2000s. The skinnier. I was doing a lot of the photoshopping, making a skinny girl even skinnier. Early 2000s, like, you're talking about Avril Lavigne and, Kate Moss and all these things. And so here she is, a large POP of someone that wouldn't have even been a consideration when we were both working at Billabong is now is like, yeah, of course. This is what people look like. And everyone should be able to go to the beach and have a good time. Like you're saying, it's a swimsuit is for fun time.
I used to travel to our factories every 3 months. Our factories were in China, and I would bring my fit models and do all my fittings and prototyping over there. And so, yes, my plus size fit model would go with me to China.
How was that? Like, how did your factories receive this new kind of because it's not, very typical of a Chinese factory to have a fit model on the floor that looks like your beautiful fit model.
Um, well, let's talk about that, shall we?
Yeah. Good story incoming.
So, I had been traveling previous to the launch of Plus. I had been traveling to China with my what we in the industry call a straight size model. So I just want, for your viewers, I want to make sure they understand that it doesn't mean anything other than the regular sizing we called a straight size model, and then plus size you call a plus size model. So prior to plus size, I was traveling with my straight size model, who is of European descent, and very much looks like what you would consider a California girl to look like. So going to China, one of them was in a very urban, very city area with a lot of international travel, but one was in a very rural area. And they would stop and ask our fit model for photos, with her light eyes and her light hair and her light skin. So when I started traveling with my also beautiful and lovely plus size model, the reaction was very different. There's a lot of talk to be had about China and the media that they are allowed to consume and how different people of different colors are portrayed. And so traveling with this beautiful curvy black woman into rural China was definitely experience for us all. It was a lot of looks, a lot of whispers. It was very much something that they had not experienced, you could tell. And it wasn't received with the um, kind of allure and admiration. I was responsible for bringing her there, and so I felt responsible to protect her and prepare her for how she may be received. But I do want to say that the factories, the owners of the factories, everybody involved in the business was nothing but kind and generous and open and welcoming.
I mean, I've only gone to China a handful of times. We worked a lot in Korea and I traveled more
Mm.
there. Never anything. Now I was always in the bigger cities, our
Okay, yeah,
factories,
yeah.
and never any issues. So and our vendor partners were always with us, and so who knows what they were doing on the back end, but never any issues and always just like really easy experiences. But you always hear these wild stories. So, I mean, that just was really cool and gracious of you, Marina, just to make sure the experience wasn't traumatizing. um,
Yes, I would never ever want to bring anybody into traumatizing experience on either side. I will say that I learned a lot about cultural sensitivity and differences traveling to China. My partners over there were so gracious to share with me some basic fundamental differences in how business is done, and they gave me the opportunity to learn how to bridge that gap. And so I always wanted to, return that respect and that kindness, make sure everybody was feeling supported and heard and that it was never a bad experience.
oh man. Well, you know, so first of all, thank you so much. This is like your international adventures is like a really nice bonus component to our stories. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so you've worked in the action sports industry for your whole career. What is something that you would change now that you're, I'd hate to say you're a veteran of this, but you have
Oh,
seen a
no,
huge span. You have seen a
they hit
span
you
of
with the
where
veteran.
I know you're maven, right?
At least she
You're
didn't say
maiden.
geriatric.
You're geriatric now. You've been in the industry now. You've seen it change. Like I said, like, working at Billabong, it was like Animal House where we had like no rules, no sexual harassment training, nothing. It was super fun, but it was a completely different time. And now you're working for companies where we really have to kind of hone it in. We're very professional now. Like, is there still some things like you made a huge difference in bringing on the plus size model and changing that industry? Is there something else that you wish you would you had the moment now to say like, hey guys, maybe this is a way we should be going. Being the fact that it's action sports, our muse is an athlete. What can we do better?
Um, I think there's always room to improve, everything and always room to grow. Um, I do think that, still in my very current experience, I still think that the lens in action sports is still a male lens. I share with people how strange it is that the surf industry is really the only pocket of fashion where the customer is mainly male. That all other fashion, the customer is female, whether she's buying for herself or her spouse or her family. Usually the purchaser is a female, right? That's what analytics tells us is that the woman is shopping, she's shopping for herself, but she's also buying men's clothes, for her husband or her children. But somehow the surf industry has stayed very, very male centered. And that is something that I would love to see grow. I would love to see an understanding of the female lens. And that's such a different thing than having women's clothing, having women in your ads, having women in your company. You can have all that and still be completely male centered. An example of that I would share would be look at the disparity between male athletes being sponsored by these brands and female athletes being sponsored by these brands. And then specifically, I would share, are those female athletes being used as models, or are they being considered too athletic?
Mhm.
And other words that I will not use that I have heard for decisions of why a female athlete cannot be used in an ad. If you look in the industry to this day, you will see male athletes next to female models in ads. And that is something I wish could change. I wish it could change yesterday. I wish it could change today. I sure hope it changes tomorrow. But I think that the decision makers, still being men, still going through the male lens, we are still very much centering how men feel about women and their bodies instead of how women feel about their own bodies.
So just a
Absolutely,
little
yeah.
problem, not just like just a tiny little thing to tackle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real stuff. It's really what what's being dealt with in a lot of industries, but
Yes.
well, in the spirit of having fun and all of the things that are fun about the surf and swim industry, we are excited to do game time.
We
We
play
have
games.
we like to play games, we do. Mind games, not so much, but these other games are fun. So the game that we came up with is a game called Metagame. It's built off of a game called Metagame, and it's basically a designed art card game where whoever's playing, they debate cultural and design related question using cards with basically like questions that you can kind of play
Yay!
with. So we think it's fun because it's just going to inspire conversation and really help to like showcase your point of view. So we'll get started with metagame. Which is harder to navigate? Sustainability in fashion or TSA with a carry-on full of samples and a hot glue gun?
I would say probably sustainability in fashion is much harder to navigate. Not because sustainability is hard. Sustainability is very easy. It is a fixed, um, objective goal. You have metrics that you can follow that, that are very easy to read. It is trying to convince the executives and maybe even the sales teams that the customer cares about sustainability. And man, is that difficult.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever packed for a factory trip?
To China, leaving out of LAX, it's me, my lovely fit model, and my lovely direct report.
We love other
Now, my
people's
lovely fit
stories.
model takes her health very seriously because it's her job, right? She has to maintain her health. She has to maintain her shape. So she travels with many, many different things that help with that. That on one of our first trips to China, she brought a Ziploc baggie of white powder with her. So we're standing at TSA. They've pulled her bag aside. The agent pulls this giant Ziploc bag of white powder out, and she's like, "Oh, it's Epsom salt." Losing our minds behind her. Like, sweet baby girl, why do you, like, yes, it is Epsom salt. Like, of course it is. But what made you take it out of the package and put it in a just the funniest. And so she's telling the TSA, she's like, "Taste it, it's salt." Like, she's literally telling him to stick his finger
Fine.
and taste it. It was one of the best things I've ever witnessed. It was just magnificent watching this sweet soul try to explain to this man that she wasn't doing anything wrong, because she
Like,
wasn't.
Yeah.
you can't leave that at home for this trip? It's awesome. It kind of reminds me of I went on an international trip for work right after coming back from maternity leave, and I also was breastfeeding and really didn't want to not breastfeed and or have to stop. So I did all this research on the best way to do that international to bring back your milk and freeze. And needless to say, I did a lot of work to figure out how to maintain things using hotel freezers. It was a lot. And coming back, I had a ton of milk packets that had been frozen. So much so, even with the coolers and ice packs that I brought, it just wasn't going to fit in my suitcase. So it's kind of someone else's story because I literally gave 40 packages
Yes.
of
Of course she
frozen
did.
breast milk to one of my peers because she was leaving earlier to carry in her suitcase. And she was very helpful. And of course, she claimed it coming back into USA because she was being honest, like, "Oh, do you have any," and I don't even remember the exact question was. So they searched the bag and she explained to
Yes.
them that it was frozen breast milk, but it wasn't her frozen breast milk.
Oh,
It
they're
was
like, "What
somebody
is wrong?"
it was somebody else's frozen breast milk that she was bringing back. I learned how to say frozen breast milk in Korean so I could explain myself, but she got through. They were just like, "We don't know what's going on. Just go through."
Just
And I didn't
That's
claim it
amazing.
because she emailed me like, "Don't claim it."
Oh,
And
I
right.
I
love
didn't
that.
anyway. But that's my story. But I was determined, and I will be always proud to say I came back with like 80 bags of frozen
Wow.
breast milk.
I love that.
It
No, that's
was
great.
a long trip. So
80
so yeah.
bags? Oh my God. I couldn't even fill one.
Okay, another surf swim brand associated question. So, which trend should have never made it out of the ocean, darling? Seashell bras or neoprene formal wear?
It doesn't wrinkle and you can take it on travel and brands like Spanx make so much stuff out of neoprene and it's like, yeah, you are sucking in all that juice. Like why? No. I would not want to be in a meeting with somebody wearing a neoprene suit because just sweating and just containing it. It doesn't absorb, it doesn't go anywhere. It just waits till you take it off.
Just sweating.
Just sweat. That's a new logo.
It just slides down, just drips, just drips down your
Oh.
side. Easy take. It is clear. Neoprene formal wear is a no. That is a no. Awesome. One more. All right. You're a body positivity lady. So, what's done more for body positivity? The tankini or Lizzo?
An icon, an angel of body positivity, just teaching women to love yourself. Like, yes, absolutely.
I feel like she might have taken your slogan and like maybe she was inspired by you because she is the queen of everybody is a bikini body type of mentality for sure, right? Totally. She's like, I love it. Yes.
She's amazing.
Lizzo, pay Marina. You got to pay her.
I know, right? Where's your cut? Well, Marina, we are very much inspired by you, lady, because you are just like such a gem and such a gift to the swim, surf, and beyond industries. And I mean, little did so many people know how much they have to thank you for really revolutionizing the industries in so many different ways for women and for girls. And so thank you for all that you have done because everybody needs to know. And thank you for being on our podcast.
I see I see it every day at the beach when I go that there's all different kinds of body types. Like I am always impressed with California girls because now everyone wears a bikini.
Like I used to say, get your nachos, get your bikini, hit the beach, live your life, have so much fun because, there's enough sadness. Like, why feel sad about wearing a bikini? Get out of your head, get out in the sun.
Ooh, I love that. We've got a lot of good taglines, lady.
I know. How are we going to edit this? Oh God.
Nice. This was so much fun. I loved it. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for being on here. We really appreciate it, Marina.